Exactly. Thank you, Thomas. Post-production that flows on how to streamline your creative operations. And for this presentation, I choose this picture. It's a bit chaotic, but it works. It flows. People go from point A to B. There are not too many accidents, Sebastian can say. But first of all, do you have a guess where this could be? Which country? Sorry? No? Anybody here? Vietnam, exactly. It's the traffic on Vietnam. And as I said, it works. And for us, it looks like a nightmare. Imagine crossing the street here. How can you do that? But they are used to this, and if you ask them, it just works. And I think studios, sometimes similar to that, at least some of the studios I've seen, is a creative space that anything can happen, but at the end of the day, we get the image done. We don't know when the samples come, how we are going to style that. The photographer is sick, so we have to look for a freelance, but we get it done. Until we stress the system. We stress it too much, then we face what we talk about today, do more with less resources, right? We have to reduce the cost, deliver more content for more channels, for social media. We have to do it faster. Time to online, you talk about that, Luis. And of course, we cannot compromise the quality. It needs to be high. In Vietnam, if they go faster, probably there will be accidents. So if the studio looks like that picture, there will be some oops, like somebody was asking this question before. But why we have to create more content? What's going on? Why we have to stress the system that already works? Because e-commerce is growing at exponential rate. Even though the last month has slowed down a bit, it's meant to grow a lot. And not only that, people are trained to see more media than ever. They are really exposed to media. For example, in Instagram Day, 95 million images are published. That means 1,000 images per second. And we go through them super fast. If we look at TikTok for videos, there is 1 million videos published in TikTok every day. And people spend 45 minutes just watching videos. So we have e-commerce that's growing. We have people that's more demanding. And we also have really good cameras in our pockets. Well, I don't have the phone right now with me, but you may have it. So they are really good cameras for photo and video. So we have the perfect scenario to the slide before. We have to do more with less. And then we have these tight deadlines, bottlenecks, all the typical situations on the studio. So that's the stress of the system. And why we don't look for solutions? So, okay, we know that there is these problems. What's stopping us from solving this? It's how our brain is wired, how it works. When you're in Vietnam, you're used to see this traffic, and that's normal. But our brain just ignores or gets used to everyday things really fast. For example, in these 80s movies, the Blues Brothers, there is one guy that's visiting another one in a Chicago apartment. I think Chicago, right? It's next to the train rails. And this guy asks the one who lives there, how often goes the train by your apartment? And he answered, so often you don't even realize. And by the time that he's saying that, just something falls off the wall. But he gets used to that. Like pedestrians in Hanoi, as I said. And there is a solution. There is something that worked before, and we talk about this today a bit. But by incorporating a lean approach and automation, post-production lead time can be reduced 10 times. Automation. This is something that we normally fear in creative operations or in the studios. But it's happening. Everything that will be that can be automated will be automated. Matthias said that before. So it's better if we are in control of the change instead of the change in control of us or something that happens to us. There are several reports. You don't have to read it all. This is a McKinsey report saying that 50% of current work activities can be automated with today's technology. Doesn't mean they are, but they could be. They are also saying that this doesn't mean that we are losing our jobs, just that the skills that we need may shift. In fact, we're generating jobs, just with different skill set needed. We will need less physical and manual skills, but we will need much more technological skills. So we're shifting. We have to work together with the machines, with automation. But automation alone is not enough. As Bill Gates said, automation applied to an efficient operation will just magnify the inefficiency. And here's where lean comes into the equation. I don't know if you know lean, but lean came from Toyota in the 40s for car manufacturing. They wanted to deliver a superior customer experience and reduce the time from when a car was ordered until it was delivered. And that sounds familiar with e-commerce. We get a sample, and we need to reduce the time until it's delivered online, in this case. What they did was to try to eliminate waste, have an environment of shared leadership, and seek for continuous improvement. And it worked. It's being used these days in car manufacturing and other industries, and it has really proved its results on productivity, high productivity, efficiency, and cost reduction. Okay, it works for cars, but how can we apply this into a studio? It's similar sometimes, but there's this creative factor as well. We can take a simple approach with 4 steps. Eliminate waste first. Then start with small things. Look broader, seek a better perspective of your process, and continuous improvement. Eliminate waste. That means identifying value. What's really adding value in your process? What really matters to your end customer? Put yourself in the customer's shoes and try to see what they see, in our case, right? The images. That's difficult. Sounds easy when we are up here and saying that. So a good way to do that is to break down your processes or everything that you do into smaller parts. Then you will narrow your focus, and it will be much easier. Also, it's good to challenge everything in a good way. Ask many questions about everything. Why? Several times. An example could be one studio that's shooting during the day, shooting different outfits, and at the end of the day, they select the images, maybe photographer and stylist sit down together, select all the images, and export them. Okay? The green boxes here are the images. When they export, they are sent to retouch. Then retouch is done at some point later. If we start exporting images before, so as soon as we have them, or during the day when we have some smaller breaks, then we can see how retouch is done at half of the time as before. And it's just a small thing. In here, we're still building some backlog. As you can see, we have one image, we start retouching it, and we're not yet finished that we get another one. So we're still building some backlog. But if we can optimize a bit more, somehow, we can see other steps on how to do that. Then as soon as we have one image, we retouch it, then the next one comes, you retouch it, and the lead time here is really small. At the end of the day, it's just a small time after that retouch is finished. Okay, this is still a big thing, changing from batching to flow. So let's start small, and that sounds also familiar from the previous keynote. Small things can have a really big impact. If you do a small thing every day, even with sustainability, at the end of the year is a lot. So it's better to start with a small thing than a big shiny one that will take you 1 year, a lot of frustration. So start with small things. And this applied to post-production. It could be using shortcuts. They are there for a reason. Personalize your shortcuts. I've seen many retouchers just clicking around the different tools, and that's losing time. And at the end of the day, if you retouch 100 images, I don't know how many clicks that would be. So with a shortcut, you can do it much faster. For example, look at gamers. They have this specific small keypad where they have only the keys that they need, personalized, and even with one key, they can trigger several things at the same time. And they go really fast. In Photoshop, we have actions that can facilitate this. Most of you know, but how many do you use? I remember when I was retouching Haiyan, even before Mango, we were in a 4-people studio, but Haiyan retouching is really demanding, so I spent a lot of time on images. So it didn't make any sense to look into automation or AI, but actions could do the job. And we had many really good ones to set up the different layers and what needed to be done in the image, so it's standardized. And if I'm not working tomorrow, somebody opens my image, it's exactly on the same way. Everything is done with an action. There are many other users for actions. That's simple. But if you want to take it further and you know a bit of coding, or you want to invest on coding, then you can do scripts. Photoshop can help you do that as well. You only need not too many code skills to do that. And it's really helpful. I remember at Zalando, we produce thousands of images a day, thousands, and having the perfect background was complicated. So with the help of a script, we could look for different differences on the pictures and try to put different layers of adjustment in a loop until all images were the same. Simple but straightforward to fix all images. We were looking only at retouch, but there are other things before and after retouch, post-production. So it's good to take a step back and look at those steps, what comes after you. 80% of e-commerce consumers, clients, look at the images with a phone. 80%. And I'm sure that the other 20 or 19 is not using a NEC 2,000 euro display. So I think how we do the perfect gradient on the blacks, the perfect gradient on the whites, and then you look into this phone that's small, contrasty, shiny, even with the night mode, all this job is lost. So it's better to put yourself on the customer's shoes, what's the audience, how should I retouch for that, and optimize. That's also part of eliminating waste, but a small part of it. And if we look at before, and also Matthew's talked about that, it's good spending time on consistency on the studios. For example, putting a sticker on the camera that goes to Studio One with a lens, and always this camera goes to that studio. Even if you have the same model for all of them, about the same day, with number of reference that just concatenate one after another one, they are different. Pretty similar, but different when you shoot thousands of images. So having the same one, calibrated every day, it's saving a lot of time to retouch. And then you can automate the calibrating process so you don't have to do it manually. So we said, eliminate waste, start small, and look broader. But this is not one-time effort. We have to do this recurrently. It needs to be in our mindset of continuous improvement. So look for something that it needs to be reduced, eliminated, start with small things, look around, and then start again and again. That was for the part of optimizing. If we remember the Bill Gates quote, first we need to optimize the process, and then optimize, and then apply automation. So we're ready for that now. But what is automation? Automation is to let a machine do a repeatable and really predictable process. We need to tell the machine what's going to be the input and what's the expected output. If the environment changes or we have an expected input, then the machine doesn't know how to automate that. So it needs to be configured by a human, and if there are changes, it needs to be modified. And we've seen this a lot, right? In, for example, car manufacturing. But in creative operations, we don't like it, right? We think that creative cannot be automated because it's just the opposite of that, of consistent input for a expected output. We need to put our creative part on it. But here we're not talking about automating the creative act itself, but just the steps around, so we can focus on that. Remember the McKinsey shift, right, of skills needed. Let's automate what can be automated so we can focus on the other skills. Also, we are afraid of AI. And AI is not exactly the same. is not exactly the same as automation. Automation, as I said, you configure the machine and you know what's going to be the input at the output. AI stands for, well, artificial intelligence, but we train a machine to think like a human. So give them a lot of data so that he can, or it can be, it can predict an outcome, give you an insight with a certain number of precision. So it can take broader rules. You don't have to be that precise on the input. And we can combine this power with automation. So automate what's more simple because it also requires less effort. AI requires high computation power. The combination of both is the best way to offer personalized content. But that's a big topic. And that's coming these days as well, right? To customize the customer experience. And with AI, we can do that. But AI is not for everybody. When I was working in this 4-people studio, we don't have the manpower to do AI, not even at Zalando in the studios. So important step is to make sure that you invest on what makes sense to your business. Is that automated actions or scripts? Do you have time to train some of your retouchers, if we're talking about images, on coding, so he can spend, I don't know, 4 hours? Do you see a return of investment on that? Then of course do it. Otherwise, you can look for third-party tools. There are plenty of software out there. Even DALL-E, who is challenging this creativity, cannot be automated. So let's do what makes sense to you. And how we did this at Pixelz, because we are using automation and AI, but how we get to that point. At the beginning, we had a full manual process, fully manual. In fact, in 2016, we still had, I think, almost 1,000 retouchers. So it was difficult to scale. Imagine having 1,000 retouchers. It's crazy. It sounds crazy. And so we started, like I said before, breaking down the retouching process, in this case, into smaller parts. Then it was easier to see what was waste and could be reduced or eliminated, and what could be automated. And this was the first step. So breaking down into smaller steps. Thanks to that, as I said, we implemented automation, among other things. And we had a perfect scenario to train AI models, because we had lots of data to train the models. And that helped us go to the next step, include AI in this. In 2021, 2022, we're still implementing more and more automation and AI. I think currently we are a bit over this number, so that's obsolete already, but over 70% of automation. That's for the whole retouching process. If we look at a specific skill, this one is masking, for example, that was really time-consuming. Initially, it was just humans, do masks. And you can see how this evolves. There were some ups and downs with different errors that we learned from that. But now it's mostly AI and pure AI. The difference is that you need to do some quality control on this part here. And these are really good numbers for us, but what does it mean to the end customer? We talked about that before. It means that, for example, for Fossil, we were able to reduce the cost of retouching by 40%, and then less rejected images. With automation, we had more consistent quality, in this case for Express. But an important point is also faster time to market, time to online, 80% faster for bestseller. You need to see at your own studio, as I said, what it makes sense to you, which are your KPIs, and optimize your processes. If we have to do more with less, the next step that we have to take is find the waste and get rid of it. Thank you.
Q&A session. Good time it's about lunch because there's 5% battery left on this iPad. So Carlos, we'll keep going until I run out of battery.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Good. We have a first question for you here. How painful and time-consuming is the transition to automated post-production workflow that you described?
It depends on the scale. I think if we look at the Pixelz use case, I wasn't there when this happened, but I know it was painful. We're talking about not the same scale as Zalando, but tens of thousands of images. So it's a different scale. If we look at small studio like Zalando, then it's much easier. It still requires investment. It still needs to present a business case of why I need a digital tech that's specialized in coding for Retouch Studio. This can just surprise somebody. But if you make the case, then it's not that painful. So you have somebody working on that, and you prove the investment. If you are 4-people studio, then again, look at what makes sense to you. Maybe it doesn't make sense to do that, but to externalize this to somebody else that's expert.
Yeah, agree. We have another one here. How do you get creatives and techies? How do you get creatives and techies to work well together on this process? I think that question could have been asked to Mateus as well, couldn't it? But let's take it here, Carlos.
That's a good one, a tricky one. They need to see the benefits of what each one of them do for the other. That creatives are there to give information to the techies so they can help the creatives focus on what they want to do. And if it's share this information, then they get well. They help each other. If they see as, hey, he's stealing my job or trying to reduce the number of colleagues I will have, then of course they won't be working well together. So it's about collaboration and transparency of what they are doing. What's the purpose? What's the goal?
Yeah. I'll jump to the top one because I know that's something you've been spending some time on. Is your automation in UI ready for magazine-grade editorial retouching, avoiding the classic fake look?
Automation, yes. Because what's automation, as I said, is repeatable process. So if it's consuming images, processing them, giving notifications to you that this is the stage that it is at, opening them, closing them, that's the same. AI, it depends. For masking, maybe we'll need refinement. E-commerce images are smaller. Editorial could be larger, could be from printing, like this size. So maybe it needs refinement. But what we have ready are the fundamentals to train the AI and the learnings that what we did for e-commerce to improve it. So initially will be, like I said in the other slide, small or amount of AI or automation until we learn and it gets higher.
Okay, good. And then I'll take the top one here again, a new one that popped up. Which are your biggest challenges regarding retouch? Which part, both from the automation and manual side?
I think the biggest challenge is what we were talking about, like combination of creativity and automation. How we can just have the time that you need to look at the image without doing anything, because you have to look at the image to understand what needs to be done. And you know that you have this time because an automation maybe is taking care of the rest. Having this perfect combination, I think, is the most challenging part.
Good. And then I have one down here I'll take on. This here, what is the one change you would ask studios to make on set to improve post-production time?
I will just follow the project I mentioned. Look at what they do, what's really adding value. Maybe this exporting images during the day is the right thing to do, or maybe we have to look at them together. So first is understanding the process, what are the different needs, and making sure that what they produce is optimal for retouch, because everything that's not done in the studio then needs to be fixed. But on the other side, maybe fixing them on the studio is 2 hours and retouching is 2 seconds. Then it makes sense to retouch it. So again, collaboration and understanding each other, not only creatives and techies, but retouch and post. Yeah. So they can talk and share their learnings and, hey, this is taking me more time than you, so please help me with that.
Yeah. So collaboration.
Yep.
Yeah. How far do you think automation
I think
could go?
Sebastian would be the right one to answer that.
Oh, we have our PhD rocket scientist, image visual kind of wizard sitting down there.
I don't know, but we've seen, right, DALL-E, what it's doing. Also for creating copywriting, that you just put the subject and it's created, your subject, not just a random one. So I don't know what to believe. I don't have a proper answer. Maybe everything can be done.
Sebastian, how far can automation go? You're one of the world specialists in this, I'd have to say. Very, very far. Okay. Is that good enough? Very, very far? Okay. Good. Yeah.
The question about the percentage of images that avoid human hands and quality control, we're getting started with that.
No, but we'll shut you down. I think it also, at least what we see, is that we actually get an increasing level of creativity flowing into the e-com space as well, which continuously pushes the bar as well. But that's great, Sebastian. We can go pretty far. That's good. I'll remember that when I do the budget for next year. That's very easy. Yes, we're getting close to running out here. Is there a percentage of images that avoid human hands and human quality control entirely?
For retouching, there is a use case that, yes, it avoids any human hands for the retouching process, but we need to QC that. We need to make sure that it's in the optimal conditions for the customer.
Yeah.
Sebastian wants to complete.
We start having like customers who send us just they need the mask, and for that we have the iPhone QC as well, and so the algorithms.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks for the support. You there in the blue shirt. Good. How long until you trust the AI to QC at 100%? Ooh. Sebastian is shaking his head. No, don't say. Okay, we'll skip. We'll go to the last one because that one, even I can answer that one. How many images a day?
Who can guess?
Who can guess? What would be a nice image? Huh? 65? Ah, that's a good day. That's a good day. You did? Oh, Sebastian's was... Sebastian, what's the average? Well, I think approximately 45,000. Yeah. Yeah, true. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carlos, thank you.
Thank you very much.